Aston Villa rolled to a 3-1 win over Wolves, and your boy John Duran scores again in garbage time, but it's still a goal.
It's still a goal.
Jules, he's for real.
Yeah, coming off the bench again. I mean, the best super sub in Europe right now, no doubt. Incredible. And they came from behind too, Villa. I think their games have been so much fun to watch, like against Everton, where they were behind as well, and they came back and won at Villa Park. They're just such a good team, and when they got that momentum going, they're just relentless. And Morgan Rogers, I mean, what a talent he is. I really hope he goes all the way to the top.
And he's got a bit of nasty about him too.
Definitely. Juventus and Napoli battled to a scoreless draw. That was well boring. Gam, this was a dull game, as we said. But how surprised were you that Thiago Motta took off Dusan Vlahovic at half-time?
He didn't just take him off. He take him off and he replaced him with, drumroll, Tim Weah!
Hey!
Now, Tim Weah, his dad was a phenomenal center forward.
Of course.
Tim Weah is not a center forward.
No.
He hasn't played center forward. I looked this up. He played a tiny bit of center forward.
Yeah, maybe
at
second.
Lille.
Yeah, second forward. I think more even than.
He's never done it at Juventus.
Yeah.
So it's certainly thinking outside the box, which Thiago Motta loves to do. I still think the impact of Thiago Motta on Juventus is positive. He's really shaking things up. And I think a lot of credit goes to, look, you're playing Antonio Conte team. They were totally tactically set up in a certain way. They moved to a back four. They had McTominay playing this sort of weird hybrid role. And Napoli still had the best chance of the game.
Yeah.
And Juventus dominated possession. So Thiago Motta's like, I'm happy. We're moving forward. Okay, fine. But you don't need to be so weird about it. And you don't want this Vlahovic situation to become a thing.
That's true.
Because whether you like it or not, Vlahovic is probably your best player. Certainly the one who weighs heaviest on your books.
Yeah.
And he's the only center forward you have. Eric Milik got hurt before the Euros. Who knows if we'll ever see him again. Right now he's a virtual footballer. You probably don't want Tim Weah playing up front on his own. It's time. It's time. It's Texter time. Jules, the Olympico between Lyon and Marseille was a wild one. Is JT going to be as perplexed as I am about how you can throw away a lead at home against 10 men from minute 5? That's
Incredible.
right, 5 minutes into the game. Clever Clogs Bilardi gets himself sent off. And then you manage to score an injury time equalizer with Ryan Cherky, who's really Italian, of course. And then you manage to concede in the 7th minute of injury time against 10 men at home.
Incredible. I just don't know how this happened, Gab.
It's not JT's fault. JT, if you're angry, we are with you. We were going to help you channel that Texter rage, right?
It was incredible. I don't know. I mean, Ryan Cherky was really, really angry as well after the game, saying, we can't, this is not acceptable. We can't let a game like this basically slip through our hands, because they had it. When you lose a play after 5 minutes like Balerdi, and De Zerbi changed everything straight away, then he changed again at halftime, and to be fair to him, everything he changed later, even in the game, with Paul Lirola, who they wanted out, Ulises Garcia, who they wanted out, both of them coming on and scoring goals, and then Jonathan Rowe at the end, straight after Cherky's equalizer in the 93rd minute, with a wonderful goal to win it for Marseille in Lyon, after playing for 90 minutes with 10 men. It's just mad.
Right,
it was a mad game.
I only had this game up on my fourth screen because I had the derby, I had my Philadelphia Eagles, and I had Atletico Madrid up, right? But it did not look to me at all like De Zerbi was parking the bus, and like it wasn't a siege situation when they had the extra man.
No, they tried.
Not at all.
They tried. They played 5-3-1. They put Greenwood up front, and why he came off at halftime. He changed a few things because Lyon were the better team, and Lyon really created so many chances. I mean, really saved the, like I said, penalty. It was so good in goal. When in the other goal, Perry was not that good, but overall it was just an incredible one of those wins that we're going to talk about in years to come, because Olympiacos are quite often very special. They made those games super special, but this one was one of the most special of all time. Incredible.
Marseille and Monaco alongside Paris Saint-Germain.
That's great.
Who do you fear most, Jules?
Still Marseille. I think De Zerbi have something they don't play in Europe. They've got a good squad now. They've added Rabiot, who didn't play in this game because he's just not ready yet. I think De Zerbi is great, and I think De Zerbi has been wonderful already for this football club and for this team. So them, and the classic is October 27, so that's going to be very special.
Mark your calendars.
Stuttgart destroyed Borussia Dortmund 5-1. Gabi, Sebastian Hoeneß does it again. Or are you going to blame Nuri Sahin?
Well, I'm feeling charitable. I feel like I've blamed Shaheen enough. it seems to be that his only formula to turn things around is to chuck on Jamie Gittins. And, hey, look, it worked in midweek after you got your backside handed to you by Bruges.
Yeah.
And then the guy comes on and you score 3 goals. Did not work in this game.
Not at all. I mean, they were behind after 4 minutes. So, already the game plan was...
It went out the window. Look, I know the defense is going to get all the blame, but that midfield... really all over the place. And it's not like Stuttgart's midfield is Xavi and Iniesta and Busquets, by the way.
True.
But I want to talk about Sebastian Hoeneß because this is the guy who said 9 to Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
He stuck around, and I said, dude, you've done one miracle. Lightning's not going to strike twice. Not when you lose Ito and Valdemar Anton and Sergio Guirassy, who the latter two, of course, joining Borussia Dortmund. But no, I mean, they did spend some money on players who, let's face it, other clubs generally weren't too excited about it. Dennis Undav, they're like, okay, yeah, we'll take the money, And these guys, Demirovic coming up big again.
Yeah.
They're
and
so organized.
Enzo Mio was amazing.
Enzo Mio turned in, I thought, one of the best midfield performances that you've seen. He completely dominated. Nobody in Dortmund could get close to him.
Yeah.
So I think this is all in Hoeneß. And by the way, this is just 3 days after they had to go to the Bernabeu, where they outplayed Real Madrid for most of the game.
Yeah.
And that takes a ton out of you. And then you come back and you stroll past Dortmund. So impressive.
Really impressive.
With Hoeneß. The Women's Super League here in England kicked off. And we had some Arsenal and some City.
Yeah, a great weekend. It started on Friday night with Chelsea and Sonia Bonpastor.
Replacing the great Emma Hayes.
The great Emma Hayes. From Lyon, the French manager, from a Lyon manager and Lyon player, getting a win against Villa, playing well in the first half, not so much in the second half, where Villa goalkeeper almost scored right at the end, and then the big one was Sunday at the Emirates, 45,000 people watching Arsenal against City. Great game, controversy on the second.
What time did that kick off?
12:30.
Okay, so they made sure that the fans of both teams could go and then watch the men's team. They didn't have to choose. Okay,
yeah, but still, I think a bit of a shame that it's on the same day. That's all I would say.
You would think they could sort this stuff out, yeah?
Yeah, you would. But it was still great. Arsenal took the lead and were the better team, I thought, for a long time. And then City came back. Vivian Miedema, of course, who left Arsenal to go to City with a deflected shot to score the first goal for City. And then at the end, Arsenal with a controversial equaliser. But I think that already make it look like a great WSL season coming up. So really, really good. Bloomberg, Gabby, are announcing this morning on Monday morning that the Friedkin family, who own Roma, you mentioned them a few quick hits ago, are now the leading contenders to buy Everton.
What? Passing who?
Passing who?
John Textor!
What's going on, JT?
So a couple of things here. This is not clear to me, and this news is just broken. David Hellier, a tremendous reporter for Bloomberg. He knows his stuff. But wasn't Texter telling us last week he had an exclusivity period until November 30th?
He was just waiting, but it all looked good.
What I don't get is, does an exclusivity period means that if you're Moshiri, who's the man who really, really owns Everton, all with his own money, nothing to do with Usmanov, I thought exclusivity means that he can't be negotiating with the Friedkins. So we know they were interested before.
Yeah.
Unless the Friedkins had just said, like, hey, look, we know Texter's not going to come up with the money because he can't sell his Palace shares at a decent price, and he has to sell his Palace shares if he wants Everton, and this float on the New York Stock Exchange to get more money. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why they're super confident.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. I'm not clear on this. Everton fans probably don't care about this. They want to know who between these two is going to be the better owner.
Yeah, and the answer is,
if you get the Friedkins, you will get a lot of chaos, but at least at Roma, one thing you cannot fault them for is they pumped a ton of money. And it's their own money. And this is the biggest thing. I was critical of the Friedkins. I think they've made some really terrible decisions. The massive turnover, especially in club executives, front office. Thiago Pinto, and then now Lina, people coming and going. Guido Fienga, who's now at El Nasser, working with Cristiano Ronaldo. All this stuff, right? But it's their money.
Yeah.
If they need to put in money, what do? They bring up their bank and say, hey, send me another 50 million. I'm going to spend it on this club. John Textor, I'm not saying he's not a rich man. FaceBank is fantastic. I use it all the time. But he's got investors. He's got investors. he's running a different type of business. And at some point, he's going to have to show a return. So, like I said, I think they both make odd decisions. Difference is Textor talks a lot more.
You go with the money, right? If you had to go for one, you go for the richest one for sure, like who you know the money is there.
Yeah, I don't want to say the Friedkins are richer than Textor because I don't know for a fact, and Textor might not like it if I say that. But certainly they appear to be far more liquid than Textor is. And Textor, by the way, also owns 50 clubs around, not quite 50, but close to it around the world. So if you get the Friedkins, you're only going to have to share the Friedkins with one other club. What the longer term impact is, they're interested in Roma versus Everton, whatever, I don't know. And again, I go back to this. I find it remarkable because unless there was some miscommunication, Textor had told us that he had this exclusivity period through November 30th. Atletico Madrid are held to a 1-1 draw by Rayo. Jules, this partnership between Julian Alvarez and the only living Sorloth in captivity isn't getting off the ground. And maybe it's because he keeps rotating his strikers every game.
I don't understand. Griezmann was rested. And and we saw it against Leipzig in the Champions League in midweek. If Griezmann is there and on form, this is when you win. This is when you play well. He take him out, and there was nothing in his performance at all. Really nothing. I just don't understand how they can go from being that brilliant against Leipzig for most of that game to this rubbish of football that we saw on Sunday night. It was really poor.
On paper, the Alvarez-Sorloth partnership should work.
Yeah, it should work.
Alvarez can buzz around Sorloth. Sorloth is also the big man who he comes back into midfield. He'll hold the ball up. He's not terrible with his feet. So he can do that. He can lay it off.
Yeah.
But if you play that, you're not going to play those two with Griezmann, are you? Unless he really has to.
Yeah.
So then what happens? I don't see how these pieces fit.
Newcastle United lose at Fulham 3-1, and Eddie Howe takes it on the chin.
Yeah, he said it was their worst performance of the season. I don't know. I think they've had one or two other bad ones. But you know what? Max respect to Eddie Howe coming out and you say we were really poor, and I wish more managers came out and did that and took responsibility, saying like also I was really poor, and not just throwing the players or blaming the referee. So well done, Eddie. It's not often you see an 8-0 scoreline, Jules. It's even more rare that you get 6 goals before halftime.
Yeah.
You think Jim Ratcliffe will be delighted with this?
Yeah.
Or is he too busy with his other club?
No, I'm sure he's been watching. It was the club's 120th anniversary as well. And it's on Friday night, 120 years of this great club in France. And they put on a show. I mean, Saint-Étienne were obviously terrible, as you can imagine.
But
it was
6-0 the new owners, this new exciting group.
His family was
Ivan
there,
Gazidis.
not happy at all. Yeah.
Like,
I don't know.
It's a long way back.
It's a long way back, and they hadn't been great before either. They only had one win. They won one game before that one, and going there being 6-0 down after 39 minutes, 6 goals in 39 minutes. You concede. It was just terrible. They were all over the place. And well done to Nice and Frank Hayes, and that would give them a lot of confidence.
Is the manager getting the boot?
Not yet. Apparently, he's not under pressure, Delaglio, but I think he must be. And maybe
you give
just
up 6 goals
one
by
more
halftime.
game. Yeah, definitely. Last week, Leicester City and Crystal Palace drew 2-2, Gabby. But Leicester boss Steve Cooper said there was an awful human error with the VAR call, and he says he's got evidence.
Yeah, I don't... Okay, so this is an incident where you remember, I think it was for Palace's first goal. Mateta was flagged offside on the pitch. VAR reviewed it. They did the freeze frame thing because... Even though it's nearly October, we don't have automatic offside yet.
Soon, but not yet.
Semi-automatic offside. And he says he has evidence that they froze the images at the wrong time, and had they frozen them at the right time, Mateta would have been offside. Now, in the description I read in the Times, they said that the PGMOL, the Referees Association, that they are bemused.
Right.
They wouldn't comment. They said they are thought to be bemused. Bemused means, Steve Cooper, shut the hell up. You don't know what you're talking about. Which I think is a little bit unfair to Steve Cooper.
But what does that mean? They froze it the wrong... What? Not when the ball...
Yeah,
left
not
the
when the
foot of
ball,
the
not when the pass was played.
Right.
Now, the thing is, Steve Cooper, if you say you have evidence...
show it.
Then you need to produce the evidence. Because otherwise, these people will fob you off like you're some crazy person coaching for a team that's heading towards relegation, right? You can't have it. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
And look, maybe Cooper has a point, and if he has a point, he's right to voice it. but you have to follow through. Once you say you have evidence, then you present that evidence either through the media or through official channels. Although I don't even know if they have an official channel where you can produce the evidence. I don't know. Do you have an affidavit from somebody in the VAR room that tells you where they froze it? I don't.
Yeah.
Jules, I was super excited about Andy Carroll dropping down into amateur football to help out Bordeaux. How did he get on this weekend?
Well, he saved them already, Gab. First game against Chateaubriand. You don't know where that is. I don't know either, but it's somewhere in France.
Is it Chateaubriand? It's a cut of beef.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also a city. They have a team in the 4th division. They played in Bordeaux, who are back in the real stadium, if you want. And Andy Carroll scored 2 goals, 1 late to make it 2-2. And he looks so happy, and the fans loved him already. It's just such a great story.
Now, is it just a case, given that I imagine he's like 40 years old, that he just kind of stands in the middle of the penalty area, and he's bigger and stronger than everybody
the second
else,
goal is
and they just bounce the ball off him? Or
No, the second goal is a corner, so he's good, obviously, as you know, good in the air. The first one, it's good movement and good finish. So let's see how many goals he's
Is he outrunning defenders?
No, but he never did when he was
Yeah, that's
younger,
what I mean.
Yeah. But no, it'd be interesting. He should find it easy, I guess. The National League, the 5th division here in England, announced that they have a new cup competition where they will play against under-21 teams from the Premier League. Gab, what's the thinking there?
Yeah, for those who don't know, like me, because you're not interested in this stuff, the National League is what used to be called the Conference, I discovered.
Yeah, that's right.
Apparently their name changed years ago, and I had no idea. Anyway, so the thinking is that the under-21, the Premier League's developmental teams, they play in the developmental league against each other. And one of the criticisms has been, it's boys essentially playing against each other. A lot of them are very technically gifted and they play pretty football, but you don't have the physicality that comes from playing against real macho men. And that's why, if you remember, there was a plan a few years ago where Premier League teams were suggested, hey, why don't we play our under-21 teams in the League Cup?
Yeah.
Which then was shut down because the one thing the League Cup does not need is to be devalued and become even more of a joke than it already is. So I guess they'll play against the National League. I don't think it's going to have a huge impact, because it's a knockout competition. So presumably they'll be. I mean, I think it's a knockout competition. If this is what they need, sometimes when you send them out on loan, you don't have kind of the same control over them. This is why teams send players out on loan. I think there might also be restrictions coming in soon on the number of even younger players you can send out on loan. So it all ties together neatly. From the National League's perspective, you can say, hey, look, I'm playing against Manchester United, even though it's not the real Manchester United. But what it does suggest is you may actually get bigger crowds for this, right? Because,
maybe.
I don't know. Can you name a team in the National League?
Yeah, plenty. I mean, obviously Chesterfield and Wrexham are the last 2 that went up. With
Notts
County.
Okay. I was going to make an example.
You've got York, you've got Yeovil, I think, are in the National League.
I'll mention Hayes, who I believe are in the National League. Maybe.
Yeah.
So if I'm Hayes and I get drawn against Manchester United, all of a sudden I'm selling out, right? Because all the United fans in Middlesex are going to come and they're going to want to watch the next gen. So that's fine. Bit more money for them. I guess it makes sense.